everyone, I'm Amelia. Today, I want to tell you the story of a company that quietly became one of the most powerful forces on Earth. Not Apple, not Microsoft, not Google, NVIDIA. Just a few years ago, most people only knew them for gaming graphics cards. But today, they're powering artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, massive data centers, and possibly the future itself. And the craziest part? While the world was chasing AI, NVIDIA had already been building it for over 20 years. So in this video, we're going to explore how NVIDIA rose from a small diner startup to a company powerful enough to challenge every tech giant on the planet. And if you enjoy deep tech stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because this story, it's much bigger than computer chips. Over the last year, artificial intelligence has moved from a laboratory curiosity to a tool embedded in our daily lives and business operations. Yet the entity currently powering this entire shift does not produce smartphones, operate a social media network, or manage a search engine. Despite this, in mid-2024, the company's valuation climbed high enough to surpass Apple. It continued that trajectory, eventually overtaking Microsoft to become the most valuable company on the planet. The original idea started right here, at a booth in a roadside Denny's. This is NVIDIA, and current market projections suggest they will maintain a dominant position in the global economy for the foreseeable future. While the rest of the tech industry recently scrambled to pivot toward AI, NVIDIA was already prepared for this demand, having spent 2 decades building the specific infrastructure the revolution required. The origin of this dominance traces back to 1993, long before the current tech hubs reached their modern scale. Jensen Huang and 2 co-founders brainstormed the company's direction at a local Denny's diner, starting with no capital and no public reputation. They identified a limit in traditional computer design. Central processing units, or CPUs, were designed to handle tasks one by one, which created a bottleneck for the complex data demands of the future. Their goal was to move past these traditional limits by finding a way for computers to process massive amounts of information all at once. In 1999, they introduced the GeForce 256. This chip launched a new category of hardware, the Graphics Processing Unit, or GPU. This diagram illustrates the shift. While a CPU functions like a single high-speed lane for data, a GPU acts like a massive grid of thousands of smaller lanes, all processing calculations simultaneously. This architecture immediately transformed the video game industry. 3D graphics became vastly more complex, making NVIDIA a staple name for gamers worldwide. But the success in gaming was a proof of concept. It demonstrated that their parallel processing design could handle massive mathematical workloads with high efficiency. Between 2000 and 2015, the company largely moved out of the general public spotlight to focus on long-term hardware iteration. They spent years in a direct hardware competition with rivals like AMD to secure dominance in the graphics market. During this period, they pushed their processing technology into professional workstations and high-end gaming consoles, steadily growing their technical footprint. This 15-year grind was a preparation phase, creating a computational foundation for a future market that did not yet exist. In 2006, NVIDIA launched CUDA. At the time, very few people understood why the company was investing so heavily in a specialized software platform. CUDA allowed developers to use the GPU beyond graphics, opening parallel cores for simulations and AI. Developers worldwide soon relied on CUDA. Being written specifically for CUDA, the software became dependent on NVIDIA hardware. Switching chips required rewriting the entire software library. By the time the AI race officially began, NVIDIA had already locked the world's most advanced software developers into their specific hardware ecosystem. When AI demand surged after 2016, the world suddenly needed massive amounts of computing power to train new models. The GPUs NVIDIA had spent 20 years refining were the only chips capable of handling these specific mathematical workloads. This forced Google to rely on NVIDIA hardware to build out its AI infrastructure. Amazon Web Services became a major purchaser to keep its cloud services competitive. Meta integrated NVIDIA's ecosystem to train its generative models, and Tesla's autonomous driving goals became entirely dependent on NVIDIA's processing power. These companies are now tied to NVIDIA through 3 layers: the raw performance of the hardware, the software libraries optimized through CUDA, and a developer ecosystem that refuses to switch. NVIDIA reached its current valuation by identifying the need for parallel computing decades ago and building the foundational infrastructure the rest of the world now requires to function. While AI applications appear as a software revolution to the public, they have triggered a ruthless resource war between tech giants behind the scenes. NVIDIA avoids the frontline fight for consumer attention, operating instead as the primary provider of the raw processing power required by every side. They supply the physical machinery driving the boom, advanced GPUs like the H100, H200, and upcoming Blackwell chips. A single unit costs tens of thousands. As corporations purchased these in bulk to build data centers, NVIDIA saw its revenue surge over 200%. Because the world's most powerful AI models all rely on this specific hardware, NVIDIA currently controls the critical bottleneck for the entire global tech ecosystem. Most tech companies thrive by selling isolated consumer devices. Apple sells you an iPhone. NVIDIA, however, sells the foundational technological platform that other companies use to build their own products. This hub-and-spoke graphic illustrates the result of that strategy. Whether it is cloud computing, search infrastructure, or generative AI, these varied sectors all route back to a central NVIDIA core. By positioning themselves as the digital brain for so many different industries, NVIDIA ensured that when AI moved to the center of the world, their hardware would be the only way to reach it. Holding this much leverage invites immediate competition. Rivals like AMD are now pouring billions into engineering their own custom chips to break NVIDIA's supply bottleneck. Geopolitical friction adds another layer of difficulty. Due to United States export restrictions, NVIDIA has been forced to manufacture separate, downgraded versions of their chips just to sell them in the Chinese market. Then there is the physical limit of the AI boom, the staggering amount of electricity required by these data centers, which now rivals the total power grid of small nations. These hard physical, electrical, and political borders are becoming the primary constraints on the continued growth of the AI revolution. To counter these threats, NVIDIA is embedding its platform directly into autonomous machines, moving AI out of remote data centers and into our physical environment. This includes supplying vehicles with the localized processing power needed to navigate complex city streets in real time. They are also integrating their hardware into industrial automation, positioning their technology as the brain for the future of global manufacturing. This dominance is the result of a 20-year strategy. NVIDIA spent 2 decades building the software language and physical architecture for heavy computation, long before the wider market demanded it. They spent those decades preparing to sell the essential tools for a gold rush that hadn't even started yet. As artificial intelligence moves out of the data center and into the physical world, it requires an immense, continuous flow of computational power. The question now is, who will ultimately control that source?